Here's an inspiring story for you. At the age of 60, Charles Allen had been working for Arsenal Football Club for 30 years. But during the pandemic, he made the massive shift to retrain with the help of a charity and is now a modern language teacher at Holbrook Academy near Ipswich. Having made the decision to leave London for Suffolk and guided by the charity Now Teach, which helps people move into teaching, Charles is in his second year as a fully qualified teacher. In a moment, we'll hear more about the work about Now Teach and what they do. But first, let's talk to the man himself. Enjoying half-term, Charles, no doubt. So how does it feel? It's 2 years in. Are you thinking, oh, gosh, I can't remember my previous life, combined perhaps with a bit of, I'm so pleased I'm doing this? I hope it's the latter.
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me on. It's absolutely the latter. I think I reflect on this as possibly the best career choice and career change I made. I certainly believe I made it at the right time in terms of my career, in terms of being able to take on this responsibility of inspiring the next generation, hopefully, of language speakers and people who go on to have a career using languages just like I did.
Well, 30 years is a lifetime, and perhaps we all go through various chapters of our lives, don't we? So this clearly is the next chapter for you. But you could have, at this point in your life, or at that point in your life, having been very successful in your career and hopefully a few pounds in the bank and all that sort of thing, you could have thought, right, it's time to put my feet up, but you didn't.
Yeah, I could have thought that, obviously. And I think what happens to a lot of people, certainly as you get more and more senior within an organization, you actually do less and less of the actual doing, and you do more and more of the sort of inspiring leading and mentoring. And I began to realize that was actually what I was really enjoying in my role towards the end. And I thought, well, if I could combine this with something else that I really love, which is the passion for modern languages and particularly Spanish, then surely teaching is a great option. And then it was a case of, well, how do I do this? And fortunately, I read an article about Now Teach, who specialize in basically holding the hands of people who are completely unfamiliar with the teaching profession, but are very familiar with the business world. And they hold your hand and guide you through the process of actually becoming a teacher. And suddenly one day I woke up and there I was standing in front of a class of 30 kids, trying to inspire them in the great language that is Spanish.
And you speak Spanish? I guess you do. Are you a bit of a whiz with languages?
I speak Spanish fluently, and I've built my whole career around Spanish. And really that dates back to when I was at school. And I was a very average student in the main at school, but I thought, right, to succeed in life, I'd probably need a superpower. And I looked around and realized that superpowers were rare things. So what weren't people doing back in the sort of 70s and 80s when I was going through school? And people weren't really focused on modern languages. And I thought, well, let's make that my superpower. And it has always kept me ahead of the game and ahead of the pack. And basically, that's what I try to inspire the kids around, apart from learning their Spanish tenses, but to inspire them as to exactly how far modern languages can take you. And by telling them some of my stories, which obviously makes their eyes sort of pop out of their heads about some of the experiences I've had, I hope that in 20 or 30 years' time, some of these students might look back and say, you know what, it was Mr. Allen who really helped me on my way. And that's why I'm doing it.
Well, you kind of answered my next question. I was going to say teaching, though. It's a noble profession, a very important profession, and one that we so need. It shapes us all for the rest of our lives. But we hear from time to time it can be a challenging profession. Can you relate to that in any way? Are there moments where you think I need to draw upon my skills and experience of my previous life to get me through this particular situation?
Oh, absolutely. There is no doubt it's a challenging situation. And I guess the churn numbers of teachers leaving the profession and the recruitment issues that teaching has as a profession bear that out. However, it is, and I say this genuinely, it is the most rewarding job I have ever had. And I've had some pretty cool jobs in my career, but actually to stand in front of a class and see learning break out because of what you're doing and knowing that you're helping these kids develop some life skills is the most rewarding thing. It's far more rewarding than thinking, how do I sell another replica shirt to a household who probably can't afford it?
Stay on the line, Charles, because also joining us is Greer Crawshaw-Sadler, CEO of Now Teach. And Greer, I'm sure hearing Charles talk there, well, I can see you glowing even down the line. He's a bit of a poster boy for you, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's wonderful. And I think we want to make sure that more people like Charles can feel that they could bring their decades of skills, experience and networks to the schools and students and subjects where they're really needed. But it's actually when you hear from people doing it day to day, that you realise that that's absolutely sort of coming true on the ground in the schools where some of our now teachers end up training and then staying on to teach for a long time.
And is that the nub of the heart of the issue here and the heart of what you get up to? You're looking for people like Charles who've had a lifetime of experience in one particular field of life, perhaps not necessarily realising that they have got so much to bring to the field of teaching.
Yes, I think there's a huge opportunity at the moment. I think people are choosing to, needing to sort of work for longer and actually want to have a really sort of purposeful next stage in their career. The teaching profession is sort of very good at recruiting recent graduates, but I think when it comes to the older demographic, mid to late stage career changes, it's less of a well-trodden path. And I think Now Teach wants to make that path kind of better trodden so that more career changers can see themselves in the profession and thrive and remain in the profession when they get there, and be best supported to kind of think about how they can share those wider experiences that they've had and how that can be so useful to the next generation of young people.
What sort of support are you able to offer for people who want to get into the profession when they've done something for a lifetime, donkey's years, the pension's all sorted and all that sort of thing, but they still got something to give?
Yes, I think it chimes with what Charles said, and another member of our network sort of said, if you want to spend all day with young people and all day with your subject, then this is the career that you need to kind of come into and switch to. So I think the first thing is helping them to see that it's possible, running campaigns, getting sort of good news PR stories to counter some of the negative press that we do see about teaching and education, to sort of raise the status of changing career to teaching, to then provide that support to navigate it. I think Charles said it very nicely, kind of holding hand. We can give as much support through that recruitment process and that decision making that can sometimes take sort of up to a year. And then once somebody does find the right training environment for them, we can make sure they've got a really strong wraparound offer to celebrate those moments where it feels brilliant and rewarding, and to help them through those moments where it feels more challenging. And I think the most important thing that people really value is the fact that we've got this network of sort of 1,300 other career change teachers like them who've made this decision. Perhaps their friends and family haven't always understood the decision, but they've sort of got each other. And that's a really, really powerful network to support people with this change and ongoing.
In fact, just hearing both of you talking has reminded me of a friend of mine who was a financial advisor for about 30 years and is now a head teacher in a primary school, if they still have primary schools. That's what I call them anyway. Is your service free, Greya?
Yes, our service is free to the candidates, so anybody who's sort of thinking that this might be for them can access all of our support and become part of our network at no cost.
Well, to find out more, if people just search for Now Teach, is it as simple as that online?
Yes, it is as simple as that, yes, and we'd love to have a conversation.
Greya, thank you for joining us. That's Greya Crawshaw-Sadler, the CEO of Now Teach. Back to you, Charles. So I've already asked you 2 years in. Are you on half term this week? Does that apply for Holbrook as well?
Yeah, on half term. Yeah, hopefully all my year 11 students are busy revising, because pretty soon we'll be getting into revision lessons, and then the GCSEs are right upon us.
Of course, well, you'll be there to help them. I think it's obviously brilliant if you can speak a particular language so well as you can. And do you ever go on holiday to places that don't speak Spanish, just to challenge yourself?
Yes, actually, I'm off to Prague in the next couple of days, so I'm going to have to grapple with a bit of Croatian. But the great thing, any languages will open doors and help you travel the world. So I encourage everyone to develop this superpower, because it can take you to places you barely imagine.
I bet there are people listening equally, they think they might have a superpower. What would you say to somebody who's had a career, possibly coming to the end of that sort of the natural end of that career, but they think they've still got something to give? What would you say to them?
I would really encourage them to consider it very strongly. It is the most rewarding thing I have ever done. And also, importantly, in my situation, my kids have grown up. I'm an empty nester a long time ago. But being in the classroom, it reconnects me with youthful energy. And I don't just mean that around the energy the kids have, but also the staff room. I'm a bit of the grandfather of the staff room. And I'm there to sort of talk and help people as they discuss their relationships, their first kid being born and all the rest of it. So there is so much from your life, your work experience, your commercial experience, and your general life experience that you can bring to all aspects of the school. And it is genuinely rewarding. I absolutely love it.
Beautifully said. Charles Allen, who after 30 years swapped a career working in football in London to teaching modern languages here in Suffolk. I can only think of one word to say, and that's adios.
Adios, hasta luego.
Très bien. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Great stuff. You take care, Charles. Enjoy the rest of your week. You'll be back at work on Monday.